Dead by Daylight has a lot of really creepy and scary cosmetics. Some are visually scary, while others hide some very creepy details about the characters themselves. Let's take a look at some of the creepiest and most insane lore tidbits the cosmetics can offer. When Sadako released with her ultra rare skin, depicting her rotting body that Reiko finds in the well she died in, I thought it was impossible to top that skin as the most gruesome and disgusting skin they would ever release in the game. But it seems like Behavior topped this cosmetic thanks to DBD Mobile's exclusive Sadako outfit, Deadly Equinox. From the outside, this skin is one of the most beautiful Sadako has ever had. It changes her dress into a beautiful bluish hue, her hair and body decorated with the red spider lily, the Japanese flower of death, and some long golden nails instead of the ripped ones she has by default. But under this beauty lies one of the most grotesque cosmetics Behavior has ever made, to the point it makes me wonder if they took real life inspiration for it, because once you condemn or mori a survivor with this cosmetic, you can see the truly horrid face Sadako has. The face looks like something taken straight from Live Leak, completely skinned. Now, I covered this face in a previous video before, but if you're curious to see how Sadako looks without the hair, here you go, and I hope you have a wonderful dream today. What if they combined the horrific design of the Xenomorph with the theme of body horror? The answer is the clone Xenomorph, a mix between the two, a failed experiment that tried to combine the DNA of Ripley with the alien. The end result? A monster that is so separated from a human, yet at the same time with so many human features. The weird patches of hair all over his uneven head, the tail with exposed bones and irritated skin, the human teeth replacing the Xenomorph's efficient fangs. All those details show that this creature shouldn't even be alive in the first place. Yet surprisingly, this abomination has more in common with the survivors than all of the other Xenomorph species. The Dredge's default appearance is pretty grotesque already, as it's the different body parts of the cult that was once under Otto Stamper's influence, all amassed into a moving creature. But one of the details that is the creepiest about it is that its body is also composed of children that were part of that cult, and we know they were there thanks to the Broken Doll add-on for it, which confirms the involvement of families. The doll cosmetic is just a representation of how many dolls and children were in that cult, as the Dredge started to slowly replace its rotting body parts with the porcelain dolls. Players with pediophobia just know how absolutely scary this cosmetic is, but what might be a scary detail that not many players know about is that this is not just porcelain dolls, the dolls themselves are alive too. But this is not the only scary thing about the Dredge, as we know it can also materialize things out of the mind of its victims. After all, the Dredge is a psychological monster. But what happens when the victims are not adults, but instead children? The end result is another toy cosmetic that the Dredge has, which seems goofy and childish when you take a look at it from the outside, but it's thanks to this cosmetic's description that we know this amalgamation of colorful toys was taken straight from the memory of a child. This cosmetic is a nightmare to them, the creature under their bed. The question is, how did the Dredge get this memory in the first place? It is a canon fact that some of the killers in the realm have been tortured in order to do their bidding in the fog. The Trapper is a fantastic example of it that I am sure many of you know already. But what happens when other evil monsters torture the killers instead of the entity before they were taken? Not many examples of this exist, but this is shown on one specific cosmetic, Tortured Nightmare from the Deathslinger. The outfit itself is a representation of all the machinery Deathslinger used to catch and torture his victims, but this time engraved on his own skin, almost looking like the Doctor. In the non-recolor version of this cosmetic, we can see that the Deathslinger had some very intense nightmares where someone used his devices on him, but it's only on the Deep Rift recolor, the one that has insane lore behind it. According to this cosmetic, the Deathslinger was tortured by some kind of monsters from another realm that used his own torture devices on him. Various of the entries detail how these monsters tortured Caleb until he broke, which confirms that in at least one universe, the entity decided to send some folk creatures in order to torture the Deathslinger, yet we don't know the reason as to why. The Oni might have one of the most interesting backstories in the entire game for me, and that's because of a weird dynamic that seems to be specific to this killer. As previously stated, we know that the entity will torture its killers if it's needed, and for some reason, the Oni seems to be its favorite to mess with. By default, the title of this killer as well as the map he came in is an insult to his pride, as he is forever bound to be called the Oni by anyone that knows him, and not the Samurai. But what happens when the entity uses its powers to manifest the thoughts of the victims of the Oni? The result is the Cursed Fate outfit, which is the one that turns him into an actual Oni the most when compared with the other cosmetics. Instead of wearing an Oni mask, his face is exposed, showing unnatural tusks and horns growing out of his face, as well as the third eye, now being a natural part of his body. His armor is extremely basic compared to his other high-prestige samurai ones. His legs are hairy with long nails, just like a monster, and his weapon, instead of it being an elegant katana, is just a stick of wood, very primal. This cosmetic is the Oni's biggest nightmare. This outfit is the biggest punishment the Oni could have received. One of my favorite videos on my channel was the one where I explained how the Wraith was originally a completely different killer, more tribal and from the swamp maps instead of Auto Haven. In fact, many of his cosmetics make no sense and have no connection to the Card Wrecker's lore. But another curious thing about him is how the Wraith seems to be deeply connected to the woods, as many of his cosmetics are actually related to it. His blighted outfit turns Wraith into a wooden creature, petrified vines all over him, and his face looking monstrous. There is another outfit that also turns Wraith into wood, which is one of the creepiest outfits in the game, the Weathered Scarecrow, as this outfit completely removes any humanity he once had. His face is completely covered by branches, but perhaps the most interesting outfit is the Night Whistler outfit for him, which tells a story that completely changes the Wraith we know. In this universe, the Wraith is actually a killer who uses a wooden mask in order to cover his face, and he whistles at night as a warning that he is coming to hunt you if you venture too deep into the woods. Why Wraith has so many wooden cosmetics is a mystery to me, but it seems like the developer stopped, as lately he has received a lot of outfits that showcase his time while he was working on Auto Haven, which is more fitting lore-wise. In my personal opinion, one of the creepiest collections behavior has ever done in terms of visuals is the Cursed Cat's outfits. Some of them can look goofy, like the Trickster or the Clown, but the rest do look very gruesome. Hillbilly is now a werecat, with another head growing out of his shoulder. The Wraith becomes a cat monster that is also mangled, and the Plague is by far the most disgusting one, completely replacing her clothes with skin and blisters. Funnily enough, all of them have very wholesome lore behind the skins, unlike the goofy skins. By far, the most messed up one is the Clown's cat cosmetic, as it explains how one of his pastimes was to find those missing cat posters around his town. Imagine how the cat ended up dead, and write those thoughts on the posters just to mess with anyone who would read it. It just shows how extremely effed up the clown is, as he enjoys being a sadist at all times. A lot of the cosmetics in Dead by Daylight are just different outfits that the killers wear in alternate universes, like the previous example of the Cursed Cats collection. Some are manifested by the entity, some are found in the realms. But this is not the case for the Unknown, as each of its cosmetics are its victims. For example, the Granny cosmetic explains how a grandma started to scream in the middle of a parking lot because she saw something uncanny. There was no blood, no evidence either. She just disappeared in the middle of nowhere, showing that the Unknown is capable of abducting its victims without leaving a trace. The cheerleader outfit is also very tragic, as it talks about how a high school girl disappeared a decade ago, but some people thought they saw her again. That same night, the quarterback disappeared, as well as the weapon it's currently using, showing that the Unknown is capable of mimicking the appearance of its previous victims in order to lure the others, as well as it has the intelligence to use anything as a weapon. Finally, what is potentially the most interesting one for me is the Anniversary cosmetic, which tells the story of a guest part of the masquerade who was lured in by a mysterious creature that knew her name with a voice she recognized. Upon coming closer, she knew something was off about this creature, so she tried to pick a champagne bottle to defend herself, but it was too late. This creature was able to materialize the blue dress out of nowhere, and it eventually killed the guest, as well as took her place. This revelation shows that the Unknown is not using the clothes of its victims, it's actually recreating the clothes itself. This means that the clothing is also part of the meat and flesh of the Unknown. It's just like the mimic tier from Elden Ring. Some of my favorite cosmetics in the game are the ultra rare ones and legendaries, as they show the power of the entity being able to manifest creatures out of different mythologies and urban legends. Perhaps one of the coolest ones we have received as of now is the Were-Elk cosmetic for the Huntress, because this outfit completely changes who the original killer is down to the Mori. Not much is known about this creature other than it was a common legend that travelers warned people of. It explained how this creature could walk like a human, yet it still had antlers and it could use a weapon. What is weird about this creature is also the fact that we can see the mask of the Huntress on its back, and according to the torso's name, this implies that this creature was capable of killing the Huntress in an alternate universe. Perhaps what is the most shocking of it is the fact that in the lobby, this creature is by far one of the most inhuman we have had, as it's constantly enraged, looking for someone to kill. However, in-game, this creature remains completely calm, being capable of singing a lullaby to calm its prey. It's this weird contrast between a beast and an efficient hunter the thing that creeps me out the most out of this cosmetic.